Listen up, RV owners. Are you looking for more storage in your RV? I have the perfect hack for you, and it's with tension rods. Use it in your sink to hang anything that you need to dry. If you want to use the same size rod, you can find areas where you need more hanging storage. We always have our dogs' leashes on the ground and their harness, so we threw this one over the coat rack, and it's great. Everything stays off the ground. Another option is to use it in your bathroom or shower. We hang anything in there that's drying. Often we hand wash our clothes, or we're just drying towels or swimsuits and we just don't have enough storage on the walls. So these are great options. It stays in your camper. It can come down easily. It doesn't do any damage. And there's so many ways that you can utilize these.
Grab some inexpensive tension rods and discover ways to organize your home. Do you have a jumble of shoes on the floor of your closet? Tension rods can help. To use tension rods, simply twist the end of the rod to release the spring and continue to twist until you get the width that you want. Easy. Take 2 tension rods and install them horizontally in your closet area designated for shoes. All you do is twist until the rod is securely taut against the wall. The front rod should be placed about a ½ inch lower than the back rod. This will give your shoes a slight angle forward without them falling off. Add your shoes and enjoy a well-organized shoe rack in your closet. You can organize boots as well. This time, place the tension rods vertically to keep boots upright and organized. Your boots can't help but stand at attention. Is the space under your kitchen sink a jumble of cleaning bottles? Clear out the space and install one larger sized tension rod horizontally and in front of any sink pipes. Be sure to allow enough space above the rod so spray bottles can be added and removed easily. Hang all of your cleaning spray bottles from the rod. You'll be amazed at how much added space you now have. In any kitchen cupboard, install a series of 2 tension rods vertically and back to back to create the perfect system for storing baking sheets and muffin pans.
I used 2 tension rods for this brilliant storage solution. I placed them between my washing machine and wall, which is an awkward, unused space. I made sure they were both level, and then I got a piece of wood to fit on top. I trimmed another scrap piece of wood for the front, and I used a brad nailer to secure them together. I grabbed shelf liner from the dollar store and stuck it to the wood to make it look like one large thick board. I trimmed the edges and placed it on top of the tension rods, and now I have a solution for more storage in my laundry room that actually looks good.
Here are 3 smart organization hacks that you can add to your home using inexpensive tension rods. In the dead space above a doorway, go ahead and grab 2 tension rods that fit the width of your doorway and secure them in place so that they are perpendicular to each other and level. And this is perfect unused space to create paper towel storage. You can store all your bulk paper towels up here. They're out of the way, but they're still easy to grab when you need them. You'll want to find a closet that has a little bit of space on the side. You can pick your closet in your bedroom, a coat closet, a storage closet, maybe your guest bedroom closet. Find a closet that will work. Grab 2 tension rods that fit the width of the side of the closet and secure them in place so that they are stacked on top of each other at the height that will hold wrapping paper rolls up against the wall. How cool is this? All it took was like a minute to put these in place, and I have a whole little spot that can store a lot of wrapping paper rolls that are out of the way but still really easy to get to when I'm wrapping gifts.
And for our final tension rod hack today, let's grab 1 tension rod to organize under the kitchen sink. This is an area that is so hard to keep organized and easy to access everything, and a tension rod is a great way to solve some of those dilemmas. This gives you a spot to hang all sorts of things on. I added a paper towel roll here so you can easily grab paper towels out of this cabinet. There's also room to hang spray bottles for cleaning supplies, and they're really affordable too.
Today's project had me going down to the hardware store to grab some tension rods, also some 1x6 pieces of board. First thing I want to do though is I wanted to cut each of these 1x6s at 24 inches. I'm going to build a box and I need all 4 sides to be equal lengths. Once I got all 4 pieces cut, it was time to form the box. I got the top and the bottom, and then I put the sides on. And the way I fasten them with my brand nailer, and I put all of those in with 3 nails on each side. I also cut another board, and I put one at the top and the bottom so that I can make some strength with the box. Cut one last piece, and I made a shelf with it, and I put that in and cut that. Next, I went to some 1x4s, and I cut 2 of these pieces because I want to make a drawer. I also got some wood glue out and put that down so that I could put my braces on there with little cut pieces of 1x2. Once I got those nailed in, the glue's going to set up in about an hour and make it really strong. Next, it was to take those 1x4s, and I got to build a door that's going to go across the whole front. So I took 7 pieces, and I'm going to build a brace also for those. Once I get those in, I'm going to brad nail all of those down and put them and make them really strong. I also want to make sure this door is really strong, so I'm going to put more than 1 nail in each of those. Also, I did lay some glue down to make it strong. But I need to cut this door in half, so I cut it right down the middle, pulled it apart. Next, I traced out an outline of a coffee mug. Take some black craft paint. I'm going to go ahead and just paint that all on there. I think it turned out really cool. I love adding that special little decor to all of my projects. It kind of just gives it a little bit more to it when you take a look. It actually turned out really nice. I like it. It only took 1 coat of paint to make it good. Now the door that's on the bottom, it's time to put the hinges on. I always want to make sure that I pre-drill because I don't want to split any of the wood when I put the screws in. I'm going to put a hinge on both sides of this. Next, I want to make sure when the door opens that it doesn't flop open, so I grabbed a little black chain and put that on. Now, the kicker right here is on the tension rod. This is where I'm going to hang my cups from. I'm going to put those brackets in, and it's adjustable, so I can put it in there with the little bumpers on each side, put it in place. I can make it smaller, tighter, but it looks really good in there. I'm going to put some knobs on these doors. That's the last one. And then I'm going to take it inside and mount it. Once I do that, I'm going to grab some hooks, put them across that tension rod on the top, and I'm going to start hanging my cups. And it's also time, once I get these hung, to go ahead and decorate. I'm going to put some of my coffee pods in there also and put a little sign, close it up. Look at that. Actually looked out pretty good. I like how it turned out. And the cool thing is the doors open really nice and smooth, including the bottom one. And look at that. Super cool. I can actually leave it open. It's part of the decor, and it turned out nice. I can change all my mugs, and I just like how smooth it is when it closes. And the cool thing is, it looks like this little smiley face is looking at me. I can actually not unsee this from now. But it turned out cool. I hope this inspires you to build your own inexpensive tension rod coffee holder. For today's project, I'm going to head down to my local hardware store. I'm going to grab some closet poles that expand. I'm also going to grab some brackets. I got a great idea what I'm going to use these for. These poles are really cool. One is larger than the other, but on the end I've got a cap with a screw. I need to take that off. Now I'm going to go inside the house, measure with these poles, put them together from floor to ceiling, and mark the height of my ceiling. Then I need a drill bit for that screw hole. And what I'm going to do is I need to put these two together. So I'm going to mark it exactly the height I need, and I need a pre-drill. When I go through these, what I'm going to do is get it through, and then I'm going to attach it back again with the screw. This is going to be perfect size that I need. Once I get this all put together, the next step is I'm going to take the smallest drill bit I can find and pre-drill. Now, this is a self-tapping screw. Do you see it's got a little drill bit on the end? It's perfect for metal poles. Don't push too hard, but you're going to put that first screw in, just let it go, but don't go all the way because we're going to put that bracket on and slide it into place. Then we can take a pencil and mark exactly where our next screw needs to go. We can go ahead and pre-drill that also and put the screw in, but we need to take it back out because we're just making the hole. Put the bracket in, again, like we did before, slide it right into place as it clamps there, and then we're going to go ahead and put the screw in. Now, don't push too hard, just let the drill do its job. Once we get that first one in, we're going to put the second one, but this one's going to be at a slight angle. We're going to do that, mark the hole just like the first one, and put the screw in and make it secure. Let's head on inside now. We're going to put that bracket that comes with the poles into the ceiling. These are white, so it matches the ceiling, and then we're going to pop it into place. It's actually going to be really secure all the way to the floor. Now, let's take some twine because we're going to hang some plants, but we're going to do this ourselves. We're going to put a knot in a nice big loop. You can just go ahead and make this loop any size you want, from big to small. Make sure that knot is secure. And then what we're going to do is take it, fold it up just like you see in the picture right here, and then we're going to give it a little twist right at the end of that first inside loop. Take your plant and we're going to place it right on top of where the strings cross. Now take that top loop, fold it up and over and back through again. Give it a little tug and we're going to pull some of that slack out. Then take that top loop and fold it over the plant. With the little side magic right here, we're going to pull it over and back through again, and then go ahead and take all that slack out slowly but surely, and watch this. It's going to pull against our pot and it's going to hang really nice. Look at that. I can do with all of those, and I made my own hanging plants. Once I hang all of these up, make them secure and straight, and it looks great hanging right in the corner. It was actually a pretty dull corner to begin with, and now I've got some plants hanging up right inside. I hope you enjoyed this project as much as I did.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up 2 bamboo cutting boards and attach the long edges of the cutting board together and attach the mason jars on both sides. Take a Lazy Susan and glue the bottom edge of the boards. Begin wrapping rope around the jars. Head to your local Dollar Tree. Start by hot gluing the paper towel holder in the center of one pan. Hot glue rope from the outer edge and work your way in. And work your way up the center of the paper towel holder until reaching the top. Take twine and baskets and wrap, tie, and secure them on either side of the paper towel holder center. Take the second round pan and pour marbles into it. Place the top pan and the baskets on top.
Grab these hanging flower baskets. You'll also need a tomato cage and spray painted the entire tomato cage. Cut the bottom ends off. Placed the flower baskets onto the tomato cage. You can use it in your bathroom, use it as a plant stand. You can use it in so many ways in your kitchen.
You'll need 4 of these chrome napkin holders, a paper towel holder, a set of these plastic chopping boards. First thing is to trace the napkin holder onto the chopping board 4 times and then cut out the half circles. I'm attaching those pieces of the plastic chopping board to the side of the napkin holder. I'm going to take these napkin holders and glue them to the bottom of the paper towel holder. Attach 2 more toward the top of the paper towel holder. Once the glue is all dry, for a little added security, I'm going to use some zip ties. I'm putting in some of my most used products.
I'm taking 3 hexagon decorative mirrors and 4 small glass candlesticks from Dollar Tree. Stack 2 candlesticks on top of one another. When the glue has dried, I'm taking some black acrylic craft paint, apply the paint all over each candlestick column. Once that column is attached to the base mirror, I'm adding glue to the top of the column before stacking another mirror on top of it in the center. While I'm taking my second candlestick column and my third mirror, I'm flipping the mirror face down and applying the glue to the column before placing it on the center of the back of the mirror. It's time to stack the third mirror onto the other 2.
When I came across this labeling hack, I just had to share it. Type out names for labels that will keep you organized. Print out your label list on plain, ordinary white paper. Cut the words apart, leaving a little bit of white space surrounding the text. Now, take some clear packing tape and lay pieces of tape over each word. It helps if you put a coin on the end of the tape so you can lift it easily later on. With the edge of a debit or credit card, press against the taped word and rub vigorously across the top of the tape. Trim off any excess tape with scissors, then simply drop it in a bowl of water. Make sure it is completely submerged and let it soak for a couple of minutes. Once it has soaked for a bit, lift it from the water and start to rub across the back of the word with your fingers. The paper pulp will eventually come off from the tape, but the text will still be there. No more searching for tea bags or coffee pods at our house.
Take an X-Acto knife and remove the lid flaps. Take hemp rope and a hot glue gun to begin wrapping the rope around the box. Take twine and begin gluing it to the perimeter of the bottom of the box. Take balsa wood oval or circle shapes and paint them with black paint. Print words to be displayed on the side of the box. Cut them out and use pencil to cover the back of the paper. Then trace the font on the balsa wood. Use a chalkboard pen or a white paint pen to cover the pencil traced font. Use a hot glue gun to attach the labels to the side of the box.
picked up these containers at Dollar Tree. They can be found in the travel section. The first thing I'm going to do is use some nice and strong super glue or E6000 and attach the magnets to the bottom of each one of the containers. While that's drying, I'm going to upcycle an old picture frame. On the back of this frame, I am going to add some magnets. Now I'm going to use these glittery black stickers I found just to put the word spices on the bottom of the frame. So I'm using a Sharpie to write the name of spices that I use most often right on top. Now it's time to fill up the jars. I'm going to put up the frame first where I want it, and then I can just stick the jars right on the fridge inside the frame.
Grab some inexpensive tension rods. Take 2 tension rods and install them horizontally in your closet. The front rod should be placed about a ½ inch lower than the back rod. This will give your shoes a slight angle forward without them falling off. You can organize boots as well. Place the tension rods vertically to keep boots upright and organized. Your boots can't help but stand at attention. Is the space under your kitchen sink a jumble of cleaning bottles? Clear out the space and install one larger sized tension rod horizontally and in front of any sink pipes. Hang all of your cleaning spray bottles from the rod. You'll be amazed at how much added space you now have. In any kitchen cupboard, install a series of 2 tension rods vertically.
Take a clear adhesive hook from Dollar Tree and a paper towel holder. Add toilet paper rolls and you have easy and inexpensive toilet paper storage. Place scrunchies and hair ties over the top. Loop the zip ties around the paper towel stand, evenly spaced and secure in place. Take scissors and cut off the excess of the zip tie. Use a mini hot glue gun to add little dots of hot glue to make sure the zip ties stay in place. Cover the entire stand with gold spray paint. Place it in your desired location.
We're going to start with a baking pan and we're going to fill it with a bunch of marbles. I need to remove the back off the glue dots and then peel off the backing. And I'm going to place it onto the bottom of the baking sheet. I'm going to flip them back over. As you can see here, this swivels really nicely. I'm going to take a cooling rack. I'm going to bend up either side. Now I'm going to tip those cooling racks up and I'm going to tie the top of the cooling racks together as well as the bottom. I'm going to place the glue dots onto the baking sheet. Take those cooling racks and I'm going to stick them onto the glue dots. And I'm going to press firmly to make sure they adhere well.
You want to make sure that you have a nice clean surface. Rubbing alcohol is a good option. You'll need some sort of stencil and line that up and then just press down firmly. And it's really important here that you maintain the best seal possible. You'll want to take some painter's tape and put it around the surrounding edges. Now that you have your stencil in place, it's time to apply the etching cream. I typically do about a 5-minute time to allow it to sit, and then we'll rinse it off. Run it under a stream of warm water and just allow the cream to gently rinse off. Once you have the etching cream all rinsed off, you can go ahead and remove the stencil and the tape. But we're going to take it one step further, and I'm going to be using this Rub and Buff product to add some color to it.
Take 2 wire cabinet shelves and 2 plastic bins. Bend the legs of the shelves towards the center. Place storage container lids in the grooves. Now you have the perfect plastic storage container organization. Take 2 wire shower caddies and weave them together. Use zip ties, cut the zip tie tails. Place shower caddies.
Grab myself some grapefruits, navel oranges, and a blood orange. I'm thinly slicing all of my citrus fruit. Soak up as much of the juice as I can. I can fit as many slices of citrus as possible onto the racks till the citrus slices are dry and slightly translucent. Cut them in half and drop them into a mason jar. Some star anise, a sprinkling of whole cloves, and a couple of cinnamon sticks. So I take a length of jute twine and I hot glue the prettiest orange slices down the length of the twine. I add some white pine clippings.
I measured how big I wanted my wreath to be. I'm going to get in there where I have the oranges. See how we made these little clusters here? I am going to put some of these pieces, use the glue gun for some of them. We put them on. I have some cranberries in here. I am using this ribbon, but go ahead and just put a quick drip of glue. So it's going to go on the middle of the door here.
Let's gather some oranges out of the refrigerator. We're first going to cut some short pieces of rosemary, heading upwards like the top of a tree. Using the floral pins, attach the rosemary until you have pretty full coverage. It's time to add our little cuties. I'm using basic toothpicks from the kitchen cupboard. I've started with a clear vase, and I'm going to place about 12 to 15 little cuties inside the vase. I then am going to fill the vase with water till about 1 inch from the top. Now let's build our arrangement. I'm starting with eucalyptus silver dollar, variegated boxwood. Lastly, we're going to add our flowers. Took oranges and dried them in a dehydrator. I'm just going to use a hot glue gun, glue the cinnamon stick to the middle of the dried grapefruit slice, add a piece of rosemary, and maybe a little bit of star anise. I then take a wire, put it through the rind of the citrus. You can make different assortments of these. Now it's time to attach these to the wreath.
Grab a lemon, orange, or grapefruit and cut it in half. Core the fruit. Scoop out all of the fruit and set aside for something to be eaten later. Take a cotton candle wick or a wood wick. Check to make sure that it can stand upright when placed inside the empty fruit skin. I was able to scoop out a mango. With any of these fruits, it is important to soak up any excess moisture from the inner skin with a towel. Pour candle wax flakes into a candle pouring pot. Place the pot into another pan or double boiler filled with a few inches of boiling water. As the wax flakes melt, stir with a wooden spoon until all is melted and you have clear liquid wax. Pour onto the bottom of a piece of fruit. Place the candle wick in its stand in the puddle of wax and hold it for a few seconds until it is able to stand on its own. You can leave it as is at this point, or you can add another layer of scent by sprinkling dried herbs. Let the wax cool and set for at least 30 minutes before you move them.
I have set my table with a white tablecloth, so I'm going to start out with some foliage for my centerpiece. Artificial peonies that I will tuck in. It really exposes the pretty colors, but the oranges are just so pretty, aren't they? Dragon fruit are so interesting. The spring colors, though, I thought looked so nice. These pretty hydrangea leaf placemats. It's folded in half. I'm going to fold it in half again and just fold it right over top of the dinner plate. And then I'm just going to set my salad plate right on top of it. I'm going to add my stemware. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 cups of the powder plaster of Paris mix in my pot. 3. So there we go. And I'm going to stir this until it gets nice and thin. And now I'm going to take my PVC and put it right down. Now we need to build our topiaries. Dowel, I'm going to just kind of press this into it, not too much. Fill the hole with a whole bunch of low temp hot glue of my dowel, like so. And then I'm just going to stick it right down in there because I don't want this to come off. This one I liked, and I'm just going to build this like a bouquet because these are going to be a little long, but I'll trim those off, wrapping this around really tightly. Where I added my others, I'm going to add this right here. Next step will be to finish the top of the topiary. And through the moss and right up into the styrofoam. I've started to put my bark down around the PVC at the bottom in all kinds of colors. I have picked up a number of chargers, fine sandpaper. I'm going to give each of my chargers a nice light coat of spray paint and trace a circle. And then I'm just going to cut out the circle because we're going to fold it in half. Then we're going to fold it again until our pieces are this size. And I'm going to lay these these out on my charger. We're just going to use our little cardboard and trace. So there we have, and I'm going to just start painting strokes going up and down like this. And I'm going to go ahead and set these out putting my napkins right in my water glass. I might want to hang those at a later date. And these just go so well with the chargers. And we're going to start with 3 of these smooth foam half spheres. And we're probably going to have to put a couple of coats on this for me to be happy. And I'm just going to set it aside to let it dry. I'm going to get started with my orange one. And let's just get started the same way. Yeah, it's gonna pop that off. You have to be careful. Right, that orange one right down on top of there. I'm going to put a generous amount of hot glue, dowel, and just push it all the way down slices of fruit. And our yellow one, of course, becomes a slice of lemon. Gently put my little topiary of topsy-turvy. I am just going to go ahead and fill it with this nice, fun white shred.
Take any glass vase or jar container that you have and layer the bottom with a couple of inches of greenery. Angle the ends of the greenery toward the outside of the glass. Next, grab your box of plastic wrap and start crumpling it into a bunch. But I did try to shape it into a sort of level disc. The third layer consists of fresh cranberries. Take a pitcher of water and pour over the top of all the layers. You can add a tea light.
Pick up a pack of these LED pillars from Walmart and we're going to turn them into Pottery Barn inspired candles. I went to the craft store and I found the perfect piece of paper. I'm going to cut it down to size, wrap it around the candle, and just secure it with a piece of tape. I'm going to use a craft knife to trim that off. These LED pillars have a wax coating on the outsides. You're gonna grab a hairdryer or a heat gun and a piece of burlap. I'm just gonna heat up the wax until it just starts to melt. Then I'm gonna wrap the burlap around the candle and apply pressure so I can get the pattern of the burlap onto the candle. I'm gonna let this cool and then I'm gonna add some paint. Grab a flameless candle and paint it gold. Once it's dry, I'm gonna come back in with a craft sponge and some metallic brown paint. I wanna give this candle a vintage look.
Head to Dollar Tree and pick up patterned tissue paper, glass pillar candles, and a clear bowl. Use Mod Podge and a sponge brush to apply the tissue paper to the bowl, on the back side wrapping it around the top. Take pillar candles and melt them down in a double boiler slowly. Take candle wicks and hot glue them into place on the inside of the bowl. Once the wax has melted, slowly pour it into the bowls. Once the wax dries, cut the wicks to be the appropriate size, then you can light them.
Let me show you how I turned a couple glass bowls into these Pottery Barn dupes.
Put 1 coat of spray paint and primer on the bowls. With the Rub and Buff, I was able to put on 1 layer and achieve the aged look that I wanted. Turn it over and then paint the bottom the other side of your bowls. I cut the ring off the pacifier and snapped a small piece of the shower curtain ring off and glued them. Here I used wax cubes, melted them down, and then you pour that into the bowl. For your wicks, you can get a kit off of Amazon and use the popsicle sticks with the hole to help make sure that your wicks stand up straight.
We're going to start by taping some white tissue paper onto the front of some white bond paper. Then we're going to take an image that we really like and we are going to feed this through our printer. Next, we're going to cut off the tape area and we're going to cut out each of our images so it's only the tissue paper. You're going to grab a plain white candle, any size you want, and we're going to use a heat gun. If you don't have that, you can use a blow dryer. Now we're going to grab some wax paper or some freezer paper. So the wax side you want right on top of your image. Then we take our heat gun and we keep heating it. You're going to start to see the image come through. This one I just decided to test it out if I was just to take the heat gun and the tissue paper. That seemed to work really well. We're going to take our Santa candle and we are going to peel off that freezer paper. And then I just added the heat gun just a little more.
Saw some candles from Pottery Barn. I thought it'd be fun to try making them myself. I'm going to put a little glue into a small container and then add a bit of paint. Now that I have the glue tinted, I'm going to paint it all over the glass dish on the outside. I'm going to leave these for a few hours before moving on. Using some Mod Podge, I'm going to paint it around the dishes. I can sprinkle the white glitter all over it, and then when it dries, the glitter will stay in place. I grabbed these pillar candles from the dollar store, and I'm going to melt them down. I'm just going to use a couple of skewers to hold the wicks in place. I want to add some essential oil to give my candles a beautiful scent. It's time to fill the glass dishes. The final thing to do is to remove the skewers and then trim the wicks.
Separate the layers of a patterned paper napkin. Cut the paper napkin as needed. Now we are going to actually iron the paper napkin onto the taper. Heat and iron to medium-low heat, not too hot. Fill a heat-safe container with hot water between 100 and 110 degrees. Place a taper candle in the hot water and let sit for 10 minutes. Paraffin candle works best for this. After 10 minutes, pull the candle from the water and then wrap the candle in some wax paper. Take a rolling pin and press down on the middle of the candle. Once the middle section is flattened, take the candle and gently twist it into the shape that you want. When you get the twist that you want, place the candle in cold water and this will set the candle in its new shape. Take painter's tape and tape off sections on a taper candle. Make sure that the edges are pressed down securely on the edges of the tape. Once taped off, paint light coats of acrylic paint in the open sections of the candle in the color or colors of your choice. Let dry completely.
You want to pick up 2 bowls. Make sure they are ceramic or glass and that they are heat proof. I took them home and I'm going to give them a coat of spray paint. Once the paint is dry, these bowls have a really nice textured look. I'm just going to use some really strong glue to adhere them together. In the top bowl, I am going to add 3 wicks. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure them to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab 2 wooden skewers and wrap the wick around the skewers. This is just going to hold everything in place. Great way to make your own candles is to reuse existing candle wax. I have a couple of these Dollar Tree tall pillar candles and I'm going to place them in some boiling water. Now make sure you're wearing gloves. These can get really hot. And I'm just going to gently boil this until all the wax is melted. Pour the wax from all the candles into a metal container with a handle. I'm opting to add a little essential oil for some scent. And now we're just going to pour that melted wax. Then you're going to want to walk away for about 24 hours. When it is completely set, you can trim the wicks down and use your candle.
Go to your local dollar store and grab 1 or 2 of these light up candles. Go and grab some fake floral arrangements as well too. So what I'm doing is I'm prepping the surface. Now I'm going and cutting some of these little fake ferns. Now take your fern or whatever you're going to be sticking down onto the candle, heat it up, and then slowly start to stick it down. Now for this one, which is the dollar store one, you want to make sure that you tape the bottom. If you get any candle wax down here, it's not going to work anymore. Cut off any extra tape, go and heat up a candle, go and tape the bottom of a container. After it's taped and sealed, flip it over, go and line up the candle that you have right in the center. While that candle wax is melting, I'm going to cut some more of these little ferns, some of these berries, start to arrange everything on the sides, and then start to go and pour your candle wax. And now it needs to sit for at least 24 hours. So let's go and get this out. And this should slide right out. Clean up the sides a bit with your heat gun, let it cool down.
Grab a lemon, orange, or grapefruit and cut it in half lengthwise. Take a knife and carefully score the fruit. Scoop out all of the fruit and set aside for something to be eaten later. Take a cotton candle wick or a wood wick. Check to make sure that it can stand upright when placed inside the empty fruit skin. I was able to scoop out a mango. With any of these fruits, it is important to soak up any excess moisture from the inner skin with a towel. Pour candle wax flakes into a candle pouring pot. place the pot into another pan or double boiler filled with a few inches of boiling water. As the wax flakes melt, stir with a wooden spoon until all is melted and you have clear liquid wax. Pour onto the bottom of a piece of fruit. Place the candle wick in its stand in the puddle of wax and hold it for a few seconds until it is able to stand on its own. You can leave it as is at this point, or you can add another layer of scent by sprinkling dried herbs. Let the wax cool and set for at least 30 minutes before you move them.
Grab yourself some candles from the dollar store. Quite simply, I'm using acrylic paint and I'm making a 5-petaled flower. I'm going to paint that up and down and all around the candle. When the flowers are dry, add in a little dot of yellow paint. And then picking up some green paint, now I've got some lavender blue paint on my palette. When you've gone all around the candle with the lavender blue, then I picked up some of the pink paint and added in a few little dots just on one side of the flower. Then, cleaning my brush, I picked up some green paint and added in a stalk. Now on my palette, I've got some orange paint and some shocking pink paint. And I'm going to make a suggestion of a tulip shape and added in a stalk and a suggestion of a leaf to each of my flowers.
some small white pumpkins and 2 hanging baskets from your local dollar store. Flip one of the baskets upside down and connect the 2 baskets together by zip tying the middle. Take a eucalyptus garland and twist the wire end around one of the spokes of the wire globe. Start to wrap the garland. Take your time and move the leaves through the spaces as you wrap the garland. Twist, move, and arrange the leaves so they face outward. Take some battery-operated fairy lights and nestle the battery pack into the bottom of the globe. Begin to wrap the fairy lights over and around the bottom half of the basket globe. Wrap over the top. Next, fill in the center of the garland-wrapped globe with a generous amount of Spanish moss. Remember those white dollar store pumpkins? Give them a very light dusting of spray paint. Tuck them into the basket globe and nestle them into the Spanish moss. Hang your new pumpkin globe on a porch or from a tree branch. Turn the lights on with your remote control and enjoy the cozy hanging pumpkin glow on a beautiful fall evening.
We're going to start with some hula hoops. Take your first 2 hula hoops and you're going to place them one inside the other. Take a zip tie and you're going to use it to join the 2 tops of the hula hoops. 2 of those together. Go ahead and use your scissors. Take off the excess zip ties right there. Turn it over, and we got to do the same thing on the other side. And now it's time to put the 3rd one in. But go ahead and put it on the inside and put them together. We're going to take it outside and give it a nice paint job. Make sure the paint you use is good for plastic. So we're going to use some of these fairy lights. I went ahead and got the orange ones. They're easy to get off Amazon. They come with the remote. Go ahead and zip tie the battery pack to the bottom. This way it'll have some weight on the bottom when you're holding it steady. Go ahead and take the fairy lights and start wrapping. There's 33 feet of this. Plenty to go. Next, I got some 16 gauge wire. Use this and we're going to make the stem. I pre-drilled some holes with a drill, poked it through. Make sure you have plenty of wire and just wrap it around. The last step was some small fairy lights. These are only about a couple of feet long. Zip tie the control to the bottom is wrap it all over. Use some wire or tent stake to hold your pumpkin down. And there we are. Once nightfall comes, use the remote and there you go. And wow! What a scene from the street. It looks amazing.
You're going to need a witch hat, pumpkin pail, a broom handle, pool noodle, and some gaffer's tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the handle from the top so it's empty. Next, I'm going to place it into the grass, and I'm going to use my rubber mallet. Next, I've got some gaffer's tape, and I'm going to start by sticking it to the noodle, and then I'm just going to keep winding it around. Just going to slide it on to the broom handle. Next, I'm going to take my cool glue gun and load up a bunch of hot glue. Next, I'm going to take a pumpkin pail, and I'm going to center it up. Next, I've got some orange Halloween lights. I'm going to place some of them in the top of the Halloween pail. And next, I'm going to take and wind these lights around the pool noodle to the ground. Right underneath here, I'm going to place a little dab of hot glue, and I've got a little bow. I'm going to add a little hot glue to the top and place it onto the pumpkin pail. And I hope this inspires you to create a light up pole for Halloween at your home.
I have one of those foam crafting pumpkins, and I want to make a hole in the top of this one and also in the bottom. Smaller pumpkin, and I'm going to cut a hole in the bottom. I have my drill and I have a longer drill bit on it, and I'm gonna just drill some holes around each of the pumpkins. And I'm just taking a small amount of brown paint and I'm just following the ridges of the pumpkin. I'm taking a small string of Christmas lights. I'm gonna pop some in there, and then I'm just gonna put the whole thing into the top of the middle pumpkin and run it out the bottom. Now I'm gonna glue the pumpkins together. And now I'm gonna add a stem. I cut some bittersweet vine from my backyard, and I'm just gonna wrap it around the sections of the pumpkins. And here's our little pumpkin topiaries at night.
The very first thing I do is pick up my artificial pumpkin and I paint them. I need to draw a face on it, and now I am going to use my Versatool, which is like a hot knife, to go ahead and cut out my shapes. I'm going to add the black paint. So this is all the pumpkins that I have done. We're going to take each one of the jack-o'-lanterns and drill a hole at the top and the bottom. After they're drilled on, we just slide each jack-o'-lantern right up the pole. And then we take another piece of the pool noodle and we slide that right over the PVC. So I have fired up the glue gun. We are going to take these leaves that we are just going to cover these. We just slide the smaller PVC pole into the bigger one, and voila! Now I have finished the cross piece, and my dear husband is going to climb up and put it up there. The piece of PVC just slides right into that elbow. You cut the hole in the bottom and you feed the lights through, and then you cut the hole in the top, and then you pull the lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff some plastic shopping bags down inside. I have gotten some Spanish moss that I'm going to drape out here. Here is our jack-o'-lantern arch during the day, all set and ready for nighttime to come.
The first thing I'm going to do is assemble the lanterns. They're really easy to put together. And then I'm going to grab a few different colors of orange paint and just paint the lanterns. While those pumpkins are drying, let's make some leaves. To add a stem, I am just gluing on a green pipe cleaner. For the stem, grab some newspaper, then roll this up and secure it with some washi tape. Then I'm just adding some brown paint, and I'm going to let this dry. Now that everything is dry, let's put this pumpkin together. Now we're going to add a light to this. These lanterns come with lights. They have an on and off feature. I'm going to use a whole bunch of hot glue on the bottom and secure the stem around the hook on the top of the pumpkin. This collection of pumpkins looks great during the day and beautiful at night with those lights lit up.
Next time you're at the thrift store, pick yourself up a couple of lampshades. To begin my project, I just took apart the lampshade, so I just began with some scissors, cutting apart the fabric and ripping it off. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this little knob back on. Then I'm going to go ahead here with a hot glue gun, just going to attach this faux moss onto the wired parts. I came in with these solar fairy lights and wrapped them all around my lampshade. At night, once the solar lights have charged, they light up and they provide just a cool atmosphere for my backyard.
You're going to need some plastic tablecloth, pumpkin pails, and some tomato cages, and some lights. I'm going to start by placing the tomato cage upside down. With the part that sticks into the ground, I'm going to pull them all in together. Next, I'm going to take a pumpkin pail and place it upside down onto all of the prongs. Next, I'm going to take my lights and I'm going to use some painter's tape so that I can hold this in place at the top. But I'm going to wrap the lights around. Next, I'll be using a round plastic tablecloth from Dollar Tree. So now I need to make some eyes, and I'm going to be using some gaffer's tape here, and I've made a template out of a piece of paper. Here are all 3 ghosts lined up for the trick-or-treaters.
Turn your box of extra table legs and parts into something gorgeous. I'm using contact cement to attach all my pieces together. I want to paint the pieces all white. I want to distress them.
I took my window pane and made sure to clean it and dry it very well. After that, I removed the hardware. I then used a product called Looking Glass. I actually decided to spray the back of the window pane. I purchased some D-rings from the hardware store.
Pick up a thrift store frame and remove the backing. Find a white mat that will fit the frame size. Hang the frame and mat on a wall. Find a small glass jar or vase. Take 2 command strips and stick the jar to the wall. You now have a 3D interactive wall art piece.
I've gone ahead and given them a good cleaning. I've chosen this nice black chalk paint. Before the second coat of black paint dries though, I want to add some dark gray to the top of each vase. And then I'm using a cloth to blend it into the black. I've collected a few pieces of old lace and I'm going to use it to get a cool effect over the paint. I'm going to use some black wax and just rub it all over the painted surfaces. Saw some candles from Pottery Barn. I thought it'd be fun to try making them myself. I'm going to put a little glue into a small container and then add a bit of paint. Now that I have the glue tinted, I'm going to paint it all over the glass dish on the outside. I'm going to leave these for a few hours before moving on. Using some Mod Podge, I'm going to paint it around the dishes. I can sprinkle the white glitter all over it, and then when it dries, the glitter will stay in place. I grabbed these pillar candles from the dollar store and I'm going to melt them down. I'm just going to use a couple of skewers to hold the wicks in place. wax. I want to add some essential oil to give my candles a beautiful scent. It's time to fill the glass dishes. The final thing to do is to remove the skewers and then trim the wicks.
First, we're going to spray paint. I'm using Rust-Oleum Satin Heirloom White and Rust-Oleum Stone. We're going to take some painter's tape. You kind of want to rough tear one edge of it. We're gonna put this along the bottom. I'm using a craft paint and I'm just using brushed gold. You kind of want to make it look like the paint is kind of tearing and you can see underneath it.
Start to paint your pots and saucers with a matte finish paint or chalk paint. Take a paper napkin and separate the 2-ply layers. Draw a circle and cut it out with scissors. Take the saucer and brush the decoupage glue so the bottom and sides of the saucer are covered. Place the paper napkin circle and press down in the center and smooth the napkin out. Dip a small paintbrush in water and brush along the top of the saucer. Add a final layer of decoupage glue. Take a strong adhesive glue and place a ring of glue. Place the saucer on top of the bottom of the pot.
The first step is just to make sure this is really clean. To start with, I want to use some gold leaf adhesive. I am just going to let this sit for about 20 minutes. Now we're going to get out the gold leaf sheets. Now you want to use a tweezer and a dry paintbrush with this. As I'm going along, I'm going to use the paintbrush and it's going to pull away any of the excess. And then we're ready to move on to the next step. Now we're going to add some paint, but we're going to paint the inside of this vase.
To start this project, I want to remove everything but the main section of this lamp. I'm going to add the glue to each of the joints and then leave it all to dry. I found these signs at the dollar store. I'm going to add a thinner wood round. A little wood glue will hold this into place perfectly. I'm going to find the middle and use the top of the lamp to trace a little circle. I'm ready to paint. I'm going to use the white chalky paint to cover both the base of the lamp and the wood. I want to attach the wood top to the lamp. The circle that I drew before is going to help me so that the lamp is correctly centered. Add some glue and then I can join them together and it'll be nice and solid.
You want to pick up 2 bowls. Make sure they are ceramic or glass and that they are heat proof. I took them home and I'm going to give them a coat of spray paint. Once the paint is dry, these bowls have a really nice textured look. I'm just going to use some really strong glue to adhere them together. In the top bowl, I am going to add 3 wicks. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure them to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab 2 wooden skewers and wrap the wick around the skewers. This is just going to hold everything in place. Great way to make your own candles is to reuse existing candle wax. I have a couple of these Dollar Tree tall pillar candles and I'm going to place them in some boiling water. Now make sure you're wearing gloves. These can get really hot. And I'm just going to gently boil this until all the wax is melted. Pour the wax from all the candles into a metal container with a handle. I'm opting to add a little essential oil for some scent. And now we're just going to pour that melted wax. Then you're going to want to walk away for about 24 hours. When it is completely set, you can trim the wicks down and use your candle.
I'm going to rip down all the fabric off of my lampshade. So I'm going to take it outside and give it a quick spray paint. And then after that, I decided I needed to spray paint one more thing. And that was a mason jar sealing part of the lid that I'm going to use later on. I'm going to take this wood slice. I'm going to give this a good coat of sealer. I'm also going to do like the live edges. And once that's all sealed, it's going to be time to grab that mason jar lid and drill a tiny hole in the middle. And now it's time to assemble. I have some E6000 industrial glue that I'm putting in a little hole where like a finial for a lamp would go. And that's where I'm going to kind of adhere that mason jar sealer. I'm going to put some more E6000 glue along the rim here. So I'll go ahead and set that down. Got it in place. And now it's time to drill. It's all good. Going to flip it up.
The next time you are at a thrift store, pick up some inexpensive wicker baskets. Dip the paintbrush in the paint and then pounce. Take the brush and lightly brush the paint onto the basket in the main direction of the basket weave. Take a wicker basket with a very light finish. Spray paint the basket in light layers with an oil-rubbed bronze color. Let the basket dry completely. Paint in light layers. You will notice that the paint dries very fast between layers because there is actually very little paint used.
Next time you're at the thrift store, pick yourself up a couple of lampshades. To begin my project, I just took apart the lampshade, so I just began with some scissors, cutting apart the fabric and ripping it off. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this little knob back on. Then I'm going to go ahead here with a hot glue gun, just going to attach this faux moss onto the wired parts. I came in with these solar fairy lights and wrapped them all around my lampshade. So I'm going to begin by pushing my air dry clay into the silicone mold and then evening it out with a rolling pin. Once it's all even, I'm just going to very carefully peel it back, take my X-Acto knife and cut off any messy edges, and I'm going to just go ahead and lay my clay over top of the frame, cutting off the excess. Then I'm going to go ahead and make some more of the frame designs using the different patterns in the silicone mold. Once I've done them all and let them dry overnight, I'm going to come in with some E6000 glue. Once the pieces are dried on the frames, I'm going to go ahead and paint them with this Decor metallic gold paint. I'm going to be using this green color here just to give this frame a little depth and dimension. Then I'm going to come in with the shade Worn Penny and I'm going to brush this over top as well.